So in this video, I want to draw a comparison between a hypothetical Bitcoin monetary crisis to monetary crises that we see all over the world caused by central banks and just other things, and then how different parties have control over the decision making throughout the crisis. So this chart you see right here, this is a chart of Bitcoin at the end of 2013, where we had the mega crash from 1200 to about 150. So I want the scenario to be in your mind that we have another huge crash today. We go from 7,500 to 1,000 maybe. And what happens is our miners, they start to say that they are financially insolvent. I know it sounds crazy. They've been getting rich off these crazy block rewards, but just for the scenario, let's say they're insolvent. And they say what they need is a bailout. And if they don't get bailed out, then the network is going to grind to a halt because they don't have the hashing power to solve blocks, and Bitcoin will be worthless if we can't get transactions through the network. Yes, I'm aware that there is a difficulty adjustment that occurs every 2 weeks, but for this hypothetical, you need to suspend that. So what I want to do is compare the centralization that we had in the US banking system to the centralization in mining that we have right now. As you all know, the six biggest banks had over 2/3 of the total assets in the US system. They did the vast majority of the lending. And if they had all gone bankrupt, as they would have in 2008, this would have placed an incredible strain on the economy. So the Fed and the government decided that it was best to bail them out, that would be the easiest option. So I want to compare that centralization in the banking sector to what we have right now in mining. These are some of the top mining pools. As you can see, a very small number have a high percentage. Yes, I'm aware that mining pools have nothing to do with geography. You can join a mining pool from anywhere in the world. But as we all know, a small number of mines in China do control a majority of the hash power. 5 or 6 mega mines in China control a majority of the hash power. So the situation between the mines now and the banks in 2008 is not too different. Okay, so now that we have that out the way, just to show you in the US what ended up happening. So a few people at the top ended up making the decision to bail the banks out, lower interest rates to zero, and what this effectively did was it hurt savers. So the majority of people don't have a ton of money invested in stocks. They normally save what extra money they have in savings accounts. And as you can see from this federal funds rate chart on the left, after 2008 and the interest rate dropped to zero, savings accounts were paying out close to zero, while stocks surged to record highs because they could now borrow money cheaply and grow. So this really contributed to wealth inequality to a large degree. And the point I want to make is that in Bitcoin, everybody's running a node. So what this means is that if in the United States the people had voted, most people would not have voted for this bailout. And that's what makes Bitcoin an incredibly powerful system, because the bailout, lowering interest rates to zero, hurt savers. And the majority of people are savers. And that's a reason why Bitcoin is such an incredibly powerful system. And the reason that it is because it functions off of consensus. Everybody has to agree to any changes that happen, or you are no longer a part of the network. Currently, how it works is you are subjugated under the monopoly of the monetary policy of the country that you were born into. Yes, you can try to leave a country and get citizenship somewhere else so that you pay taxes somewhere else. Maybe you like their central bank better. But that's extremely difficult. It takes a lot of time, effort, and money to move, and so a lot of people end up settling for monetary policy that they're not too happy with. It is much easier to simply install new software. If I get unhappy with Bitcoin's monetary policy, I can switch to Litecoin or to Ethereum or to whatever I want. Or if I want to try to fork Bitcoin, I'm free to do that as well. Democracy is good, but consensus is better. In democracy, you have to make compromises, right? So a lot of people had to swallow the 2008 bailout, even though they didn't like it, because they didn't want to leave the country. So they just dealt with it. But in consensus, everyone agrees to everything. And so I think this is an extremely powerful trend. The more freedom of choice people have, the better society becomes. So whether it's being free from slavery, and that you have the choice to do what you want with your time, that push society forwards. Whether it's women's rights and having the ability to have property, to marry who you want, to vote, that really pushes society forwards when you have the freedom to do the things that you want to do. If we have a monopoly in any industry, it's obviously a huge negative, right? We have a government that hasn't been doing a good job lately with monopolies, but traditionally we try to dismantle monopolies because we know it stamps out competition and is bad for the consumer. But we have to deal with a monetary system monopoly from the Federal Reserve. And I think this financial revolution is going to change all that. So originally we had a class revolution and then a social revolution, but I think this last revolution is really going to change, and that is going to be freedom of choice to the financial system that you want to be a part of. So if you want to be a part of a financial system that benefits savers and not one that benefits spenders, then that is your choice. And I think as the freedom of choice increases, society will continue to be better off. Thank you for listening.